They said it was impossible. A secret organization. There's no way that's real. There is no such thing as organized crime. You were insane if you believed that the mafia existed. But the evidence proved them wrong.
A massive concrete vault has been discovered. Some think it belonged to none other than the notorious Al Capone.
April 20th, 1986. The secret vaults of Al Capone was found and unlocked, which illustrated the legacy of a famous mafia leader. The mysterious lore of the mafia has influenced today's culture. This just goes to show that although many people believe the mafia was a thing of the past, there are still many things that we've yet to discover. The earliest form of Italian mafia originated in Sicily, Italy, tracing back to 200 years, when numerous periods of invasion prompted families to become clannish and rely on familial ties for safety. And due to said periods of invasion, Sicily nurtured an environment of self-reliance, thus allowing the Sicilians to create the Omerta, the Italian code of silence that swore to never collaborate with the police during an investigation. By 19th century, private armies called mafiae took advantage of violent-natured Sicily. They extorted protection money from landowners, which eventually spawned the creation of criminal families. As time went on, the criminal families grew, and by 1861, Sicily became a province of Italy. But because Sicily was deemed too difficult to control, Italy believed it was best to allow Sicily to be independent, at least until the criminal families died down. Yet, the mafia idea spread throughout the world, and by 1920, Prime Minister Mussolini made a grand effort to stop mobsters because he feared it was a threat to his regime. This caused thousands to millions to flock to the US, more specifically New York City.
The Mafia came to New York during the Prohibition era, where there was a ban on manufacture, transportation, and consumption of liquor under the 18th Amendment. The Mafia rose to power in New York through their smuggling of illicit liquor.
On July 16, 1920, the Prohibition Act went into effect. Thus was the lawless decade begun. It was an era of bootleggers and hoodlums. Federal agents confiscated stores of illegal liquor. It happened every single day.
And when the Prohibition Act was repealed, they began to realize that they had the power to move to other inquiries, such as drug trading, prostitution, and illegal gambling. This gave way to the rise in infamous mafia leaders such as Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, and Joe Bonanno. Luciano decided to unify the mafia. He formed a commission where all the mob bosses would band together and set aside their grievances to make profit. Before the commission, for example, if 3 mob bosses were in New York, 2 of them would team up and plan to kill the third one, while the third mob boss is planning to kill the second one. Luciano gained the support of mob bosses from New York, Chicago, and Buffalo. He pulled off the impossible and created the biggest enterprise of organized crime in history. As the mafia spread to Chicago, their influence affected police and politics, as they had control over them, as seen through the formation of the Chicago outfit.
The commission boasted it was so powerful that it could even influence government.
I can remember a time, and I participated in some of those meetings, and the decisions that had to be made were, you're going to be the next federal judge, you're going to be the next governor, you're going to be the next senator, you're going to be the next House of Representatives candidate. The men got up after those decisions, and lo and behold, it happened.
They had tremendous political power and had thousands of police and politicians in their pocket. Believe it or not, since the beginning of organized crime in the US, the government has denied the mafia existed on countless different occasions.
For the most part, the authorities denied the existence of a national criminal organization. One reason was that the mafia was busy buying protection for itself. Bill Bonanno says he would meet corrupt police officers in a restaurant to give them their bribes.
I had dinner at a little restaurant. I was there with two other friends. And we were sitting around, and they said, "You have a look of nostalgia in your face. What's up?" I said, I used to come here in the late 40s and the early 50s, and I turned around and I said, I used to sit in that corner back there. And I used to meet with a captain and two lieutenants from law enforcement. And one of them said, "Well, what were you doing here?" I said, "We were giving them their envelopes." Envelopes for what? To look the other way while we had the gambling, we had the horse racing, the bookmaking, and the numbers.
On November 14th, 1957, New York State Troopers noticed a significant amount of high-priced cars with out-of-state licenses. The cars belonged to mobsters who had come to the Appalachian for a meeting. Little did they know, this meeting will ultimately lead them to the exposure of the mafia. The suspicious police watched from afar, and once one of the mafiosos noticed their lurking, all the bosses scrambled. 60 were caught and questioned. This incident made national news and finally made the government for the first time acknowledge the existence of the mafia in the United States. Several years later, an even bigger event happened in 1963. This event was a major key to the fight against organized crime, the appointment of Robert F. Kennedy as Attorney General of the United States. Robert F. Kennedy served as Attorney General from 1961 to 1964. This gave him the power to truly organize officers into hunting down the mafia. One of his biggest contributions to fighting organized crime was by making Joe Valachi testify to truly expose the mafia. While Joe Valachi was in prison, he thought that the mafia was after him when he broke the no-drug policy, which at the time was forbidden by the mafia because it was deemed too risky. He had gotten the kiss of death while in prison, which symbolizes his future death. Because of this, he stabbed the messenger to death. He then faced the death penalty, but Robert F. Kennedy placed him in the Federal Witness Protection Program to protect him from the mafiosos. He agreed to this in exchange for his testimony. He was granted a life sentence rather than a death penalty. Another way the FBI attempted to stop organized crime was to pass the RICO Act. The RICO Act passed in 1970. This act allowed prosecutors to prosecute individuals who participate in racketeering and are proven to be a part of the criminal enterprise. Racketeering is criminal activity that is performed to benefit an organization such as the mafia. Some examples include extortion, money laundering, and bribery. This act further aided the fight against organized crime.
The Federal Witness Protection Program was a very effective tool during the 60s because it allowed mafia members to be guaranteed safety as long as they testified against the mafia. The RICO Act was one of the most effective tools, and it is still used today. The RICO Act, alongside the Federal Witness Protection Program, allowed the United States to stand up against organized crime. Although the United States did take a stand against organized crime with the RICO Act of 1970 and the Federal Witness Protection Program, it must be said that organized crime has not stopped in the United States. From 1970 to 2010, it is correct that organized crime has been subdued, but organized crime has been growing within the past few years. Organized crime has taken on a transnational nature, and with the expansion of the internet, organized crime has been growing at a steady level. This fact has caused policymakers to question whether the governmental tools we have is still effective.